What we do here matters, because what we don't do matters even more.
We need to continue to push, and we at ADAO are going to continue to push the Surgeon General of the United States.
As you know, the United States continues to use asbestos, and that indeed is a barrier to others stopping its use.
The most horrific part of this whole story is that it is preventable. When you can't breathe, nothing else matters. This quote from the American Lung Association captures well the plight of those affected by asbestos. My connection to this issue is a personal one. My grandfather, Stan Grimberg, died June 6, 1982, just 5 days before my first birthday. I never had the opportunity to know him because his life was cut short by mesothelioma. This caused by his exposure to asbestos during the 28 years he spent working in the plumbing trade. There are countless stories like this, and these deaths are absolutely senseless. Today I'd like to share with you first what asbestos is, the effects it has on the human body, about the cover-up that has led many to their death, and finally I would like to call for a worldwide ban on asbestos. According to the Centers for Disease Control at cdc.gov, asbestos is a commercial name, not a mineralogical definition, given to a variety of 6 naturally occurring fibrous minerals. These minerals possess high tensile strength, flexibility, resistance to heat and flame, and electrical resistance. These minerals have been used for decades in thousands of commercial products, such as insulation and fireproofing materials, automotive brakes and textile products, and cement and wallboard materials. According to the ADAO website, chrysotil, or white asbestos, accounts for 95% of all the asbestos ever used in the world, and is the only form still in use today. Regardless of specific type, all asbestos fibers are hazardous to human beings. The danger of asbestos comes from the airborne quality of the fibers. When it is disrupted or damaged, these microscopic fibers can easily be inhaled, where they become lodged in the lungs. According to the book Fatal Deception, the terrifying true story of how asbestos is killing America by Michael Boker, asbestosis, a scarring process caused in the interstitial or inner part of the lung by the body's attempt to attack the fibers, is the most common disease caused by asbestos exposure. It is progressive and can develop fully in as little as 7 years and can cause death in as little as 13 years. In other cases, it can take 20 years or more before its victims begin to feel symptoms. The body attacks the fibers after they've been inhaled, which causes the lining of the lungs to thicken and become stiff. This makes it very difficult to not only inhale the proper amount of air, but also to exhale properly, causing a buildup of carbon dioxide. An individual can live many years with this condition. Essentially, they very slowly suffocate. I can't even imagine how terrifying it would be not to have enough air. There are 2 types of mesothelioma, pleural and peritoneal. According to author Michael Boker, the only known cause of mesothelioma is exposure to asbestos fibers. Mesothelioma, which is non-contagious, usually occurs in 2 places within the human body. The most common type is pleural mesothelioma, which is cancer of the cells that make up the pleura, or lining around the outside of the lungs and inside of the ribs. It accounts for about 75% of all cases. Pleural mesothelioma is not a symptomatic disease until late in its course. It often takes from 20 to 40 years for symptoms to appear. Those with mesothelioma essentially suffocate as well, while also enduring incredible pain. This all sounds gruesome because it is. The most horrific part of this whole story is that it is preventable. It has been known that this substance kills for over a century, maybe even longer, and yet there is still no global ban and people worldwide are still exposed to asbestos today. The asbestos industry has known the harmful effects of this product for years, and yet they choose profits over people, participating in a cover-up which has subjected workers and others to the dangers of asbestos and eventually death. According to the book Doubt is Their Product, How Industry's Assault on Science Threatens Your Health by David Michaels, although not quite as infamous as the tobacco scandal, the asbestos cover-up of the past 70 years or so has been just as tragic in terms of lives diminished and lost. The magic mineral is a natural insulator against heat and flame. Currently, it is also responsible for 100,000 deaths a year worldwide, according to the World Health Organization. Many have documented in damning detail the industry's denigration of the risks associated with asbestos exposure and its efforts over the decades to keep vital information out of the scientific literature and popular press. The first documented deaths attributed to asbestos exposure were in England in 1898. Despite this, workers in asbestos mines and plants that make asbestos products were told that this dust was safe. According to the book An Air That Kills by Andrew Snyder and David Macomber, nobody knows how many people have died from it, or where, or how many more will die. Hundreds of thousands more people will be exposed to asbestos from other sources in this country, from breaks, from contaminated talc, from contaminated iron ore, from all the products containing asbestos that are still being legally manufactured and sold. Because of the power of an industry that has lied and covered up for a deadly century, and because of a government that has not protected us, its workers, and its consumers. In light of this information, there is no other logical step than a worldwide ban. According to information obtained from the ADAO website, asbestos was declared a proven human carcinogen by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the International Agency for Research on Cancer of the World Health Organization, and the National Toxicology Program more than 20 years ago. The scientific community is in overwhelming agreement that there is no safe level of exposure to asbestos. Moreover, there is no evidence of a threshold level below which there is no risk of mesothelioma. Many people believe that asbestos has already been banned in the United States, and before I did some research, I was one of them. The EPA did in fact try to ban asbestos back in 1991, but the case was thrown out by the 5th District Court on a technicality. Since 1991, the EPA has not attempted to ban it again. Justice has no timeline, and there is no statute of limitations on murder. Product liability and negligence to this extent is murder. This is unacceptable.